The spirit of 2020 frayed into the scratchy mood of 2021 with the economic ping-pong made worse by the impact of COVID-19. Though not many lockdowns were imposed, public health regulations fluctuated throughout the year, with government vaccination campaigns taking center stage. Just when people thought they were out of the woods, the pandemic came rolling back in the form of Delta variant, which was officially detected in Namibia in July, closely followed by Omicron. But at least we all got a lesson in ancient Greek names. Notwithstanding the doom narratives that dominated 2021, there were some traces of good news in a year declared a year of resilience by President Hage Geingob. I'm Daniel Nadunya. May I please beg a few minutes of your time for a dive into 2021's biggest stories in no particular order, and a quick look back on a year that was unforgettable, often for the wrong but not worst reasons. Thank you kindly so much for joining us, and please do stick around. It only took 2 days before we realized that 2021 probably wasn't going to be an improvement on 2020. Chaos almost erupted at the state mortuary at Windhoek Central Hospital due to poor communication for the burial times of people who died of COVID-19. Families gathered at the mortuary as early as 7 in the morning to view the bodies and be allowed to receive the remains of their loved ones for burials as per COVID-19 procedures. However, upon arrival, they were told to wait until 2 o'clock in the afternoon because of a lack of staff at the mortuary. This angered the mourning families as they already made burial and travel arrangements in line with the curfew regulations. The situation was later resolved and the teams were called in to proceed with the burials. There were restrictions on viewing the bodies of people who died from COVID-19 complications, which was frustrating to some families. At Katimamulilo, 2 men were arrested after assaulting 2 nurses who informed them about the death of a relative. The attack happened when the 2 family members were allowed to enter the isolation ward to pay their last respects instead of viewing from a window as earlier advised. The year 2021 came and it has now come to an end, though not everyone made it through, and mostly due to COVID-19. Let's look at some Namibian newsmakers who remained in 2021. The former governor of the Erongo region and unionist Cleophas Muchavikwa, the NBC's Thomas Shikale and Sport Factory assistants Alfred Chaduko, and the head of Content Hub Department at NBC Maria Indongo Nepaya, Alex Kaputu, a man who has left an indelible mark in the contribution, preservation and advancement of particularly the Ovaherero cultural norms and beliefs, also did not make it through the year. A well-known politician and the first petitioner for Namibia's independence, Professor Mburumba Kerina, also died. The United People's Movement leader, Pete Junius. Former lawmaker Willem Konyore, who died from a lung infection. Retired NDF Chief John Mutua, former Minister of Youth and Sport Kadenambo, and Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Training and Innovation Veno Kawaria. In addition, the voice of the former Deputy Minister of Fisheries Samuel Ankama, Dr. Z. Ngavirwe, the Genocide envoy and former Namibia's ambassador to the European Union, First Minister of Justice Dr. Ngarikutuke Shiriange, former Deputy Prime Minister Marco Hausiku, veteran politician and leader of the All People's Party and Member of Parliament Ignatius Shihwameni, and renowned film and theater actor David Javera have been silenced. Death also taught into traditional authorities, with the year ended without the leader of the Afrikaner Traditional Authority, Gau Edward Afrikaner. Vekwiru Koro Ombarao Shitambi of the Ovaherero Traditional Authority, Ovambaneru Traditional Authority Ombara and former Deputy Minister of Works Kiles Munyuku III Nguvauva, Kosi of the Bakalahati Traditional Authority Hubert Ditabwe, Chief Joel Stephanus of Falchras, Gaup Johannes Kausep from Stamprit, and Masubia Traditional Authority leader Munitenge Kisko Maiva Liswani III. Namibia, just like any other country in Africa, was struggling to vaccinate its people due to delay in COVID-19 vaccines delivery. After a long wait, the first batch of Sinopharm vaccines finally arrived in March, and the priority was given to frontline workers starting in Khomas and Erongo regions. The 100,000 doses were donated by China, making Namibia the third country in SADC at the time to receive the Chinese jabs. Many other vaccines followed thereafter. As the public interest to buy into the vaccines grew, stakeholders came on board to meet the demand. Gondwana Collection Namibia, in partnership with the Ministry of Health, initiated a drive-through vaccination campaign at the Windhoek Showgrounds, which saw hundreds of people lined up in their cars. With the requirement for one to present a PCR negative test, particularly for those who want to travel, some elements within the system saw an opportunity to tamper with tests. But some employees at the Namibia Institute of Pathology were caught in their tracks and were suspended on suspicion of tampering with COVID-19 records. As countries struggle to fight COVID, some were leaning towards ivermectin, a drug commonly used to treat or prevent parasites in animals. Medical doctors in Namibia also supported the idea and petitioned government, but the Namibia Medicines Regulatory Council warned against the use of ivermectin in humans as treatment for COVID-19. Still with COVID-19, in the same month of January, government suspended traveling to South Africa for business and leisure purposes, which lasted until the 15th of February. This after the neighboring country closed 20 borders while it battled with a second wave of COVID-19 infections. In February, the effects of travel restrictions imposed during the outbreak of COVID-19 in early 2020 continued to have devastating effects on the travel and tourism industry. Bidvest Namibia Car Rental was among companies that announced the closure of operations in Namibia at the end of this month. The closure affected 32 permanent staff members across 6 branches in the country. The police also announced the cancellation of recruitment in the Gender-Based Violence Investigation Unit as funds got redirected towards the fight against COVID-19. On the other hand, the African Development Bank approved a loan of $1.5 billion to support Namibia's governance and economic recovery efforts. The request was made to address the impact of the pandemic on economic and maintain government's welfare programs. The loan is payable over a 15-year period at a varying interest rate. Now on politics. The third session of the 7th Parliament opened early February, and President Hage Geingob addressed the MPs virtually. Some opposition MPs, however, staged a walkout a few minutes into President Hage Geingob's speech, saying they wanted the head of state to address them in person and not virtually. After the address, PDM leader McHenry Venani questioned why the president decided to address the parliament virtually with no prior notification. However, Prime Minister Saraku Gongero Amadila defended the move, saying there was nothing wrong with the president not showing up in person. It was in February when Air Namibia's woes began. Government during this period said it could no longer afford to support Air Namibia financially and started pushing ahead with the voluntary liquidation of the airline. Minister of Finance Ipumbushimi said that the decision was taken after all restructuring options were explored. He said all options assessed point to the fact that the national airline was not profitable and it has not been profitable since its inception. It is estimated that so far government has spent more than $8 billion on Air Namibia. Statements indicated Air Namibia's assets to be $981 million, while liabilities shot up to $3 billion. Opposition MPs in the National Assembly condemned the decision by government to liquidate Air Namibia, describing the move as unconstitutional and undermining the power of Parliament, and wanted the decision to be revoked for a better alternative. The National Union of Namibian Workers, NUNW, TUCNA, and the Namibian Cabin Crew Union also led a countrywide demonstration denouncing the liquidation of the national airline. Air Namibia employed more than 600 employees, and the airline has since been liquidated. This is after the High Court ruled to convert the provisional liquidation into full liquidation following an application by the Namibian Airports Company. Now onto legal matters. The High Court granted bail to fishrot accused Ricardo Gustavo, but with very stringent conditions that will restrict his movement within Windhoek. Judge Herman Oosthuizen ordered Gustavo to pay $800,000 to be released from custody. Alternatively, Gustavo must provide assets worth $500,000 with a $300,000 cash payment, which will be forfeited if he absconds while awaiting trial. The High Court also imposed a list of 16 bail conditions, closing all chances of him leaving the country. Gustavo is now out of the Correctional Service hostel. Still in the High Court, Shoprite was ordered to stop using seasonal workers to do the work of striking employees. This after NAFAO brought an urgent application asking the court to order the company not to hire other employees, as this was against the Labour Act. The court further ordered Shoprite to get rid of all strike breakers. Shoprite, Usafe and Checkers employees went on strike demanding better salaries and improved conditions of employment. Weeks of industrial action by Shoprite workers eventually came to an end when the company struck a deal with NAFAO. In the Supreme Court, the dismissal of the LPM's case was overruled, in which the party sought reinstatement of its 2 MPs in the National Assembly. Bernadette Swartboy and Henny Seibab returned to Parliament following their days of suspension for their conducts during the State of the Nation address. The High Court initially ruled in favor of the Speaker, Peter Kachavivi, and dismissed LPM's application, forcing the 2 MPs to appeal the ruling. We continue with legal matters in the geopolitics. The inquest into the killing of the 3 Nshindo brothers and their Zambian cousin at Impalila Island by the Botswana Defense Forces started in Kasane Magistrates Court on November 15th in Botswana. A number of civilians and police officers, medical doctors as well as witnesses from both countries testified in the case. The ruling of the inquiry, which concluded on November 26th, is expected to be delivered on the 20th of January 2022. Meanwhile, Namibia and Botswana have mutually agreed to resolve the conflict along the 2 countries' common borders. This comes after Namibia and Botswana's Ministers of International Relations undertook a joint visit to the Zambezi region and the Chobe district of Botswana, necessitated by reports of alleged continuous intimidation of Namibians by the BDF. We continue with matters of the law. The month of February also witnessed Judge Obed Sibeya dismissing with costs an application by the presidency in which it objected to the hearing of a case between the affirmative repositioning movement and the government regarding a promise to service plots countrywide. The AR movement wants the court to compel President Hage Geingob and the government to comply with an agreement signed with the pressure group in 2015 in which government committed to service 200,000 plots on urban land countrywide. The president initially objected to the AR's application and wanted the matter scrapped off the court roll on technical grounds. We move from Windhoek to Coast, where displeasure mounted among residents born and raised in Walvis Bay after the municipality allocated plots to 151 people at Otwea. Mayor Trevino Forbes, however, said the decision was a response to the emergency caused by the massive shake fire at Twaloloka last year. The municipality was to service 151 plots for fire survivors to build their houses on. But some Binars felt it was unfair for outsiders to get plots ahead of them. On land matters, the new leadership at the city of Windhoek was put to the test when a large number of residents in various parts of the city unlawfully attempted to clear land to occupy. An angry crowd wanted a piece of land along the Moses Garweb Road, which they have cleared and cordoned off, leaving the police with no option but to close down the road. Another crowd also cleared land in some of Windhoek's upmarket suburbs and other localities on the western side of the city. Cullinan Street in the northern industrial area of the capital city is home of the national broadcaster. NBC employees also went on strike this year following a wage and condition of employment deadlock. The company maintained that there was no money to meet the demands of the employees. It was a strike that lasted for weeks, which in the end resulted in employees feeling the pinch of the no work, no pay condition. On a positive note, however, all employees on contract were later offered permanent jobs and are on probation for 6 months. NAPU and NBC are still, however, fighting the spillover of the strike, and employees are still hopeful that justice will one day be delivered. On another positive note, as part of the national broadcaster's effort to expand its presence in the regions, the NBC opened a new regional office in Omaheke's capital of Hobabes, which mainly caters for Setswana language radio listeners, Tirelo ya Setšhaba FM. There is also now a permanent television news crew stationed there. Now onto community and social politics. Kavango East Governor Bonifacius Wakudumo came under fire from concerned residents in the region after appointing Chinese national Charlie Min-shing as his exclusive economic and development advisor. The governor has since rescinded his decision following public outcry. A group of Namibians took to the streets in Windhoek city center in protest against a decision by the Minister of Home Affairs not to allow twin babies who were born through surrogacy to enter Namibia. The babies, whose parents are from the LGBTQI community, were born in South Africa. This decision prompted Philip Lou, a Namibian, to file an urgent application in the Windhoek High Court, which in the end turned in their favor, though the Home Affairs and Immigration Ministry was contemplating on appealing the ruling. The Minister of Defense and Veterans Affairs, Peter Hafeni-Vilho, also quit his job unceremoniously. This comes after he was summoned by the president following allegations flagged by AR activist Dr. Job Ampanda of an undeclared unit trust account with Hong Kong's HSBC Bank holding more than $3 million. The account is alleged to be linked to illicit proceeds involving an arms deal flagged in 2010 by law enforcement agencies, a scandal that led to the resignation of former Defense Chief Martin Shelley. Vilho was commander of the Navy at the time. However, in the last kick of a dying horse, Vilho requested President Hage Geingob to institute a forensic audit in the affairs of the Ministry of Defense, NDF, and its subsidiary, August 26 Holdings. The request for a forensic audit is contained in the resignation letter Vilho submitted to President Hage Geingob after being summoned over an undeclared offshore bank account. He stated that the forensic audit into the allegations made against the three entities should be done with the purpose of clearing of names. On public enterprises. The Minister of Public Enterprises cleared Namib Desert Diamonds Namibia of corruption allegations which include the underselling of diamonds. Allegations of deliberate selling of diamonds below their value to foreign-based companies rocked Namibia in 2017, which was accused of selling a carat for as little as $7,000 at the time. Following investigations as directed by President Hage Geingob, Kennedy Hamutenya, Namibia's CEO, was cleared later. The year also had reports of crime. A diplomat's wife was repatriated home over the alleged murder of her two children in Ethiopia. The 33-year-old Christofina Amtenya was repatriated from Ethiopia to stand trial in Namibia after being detained on allegations of killing her two minor children and attempting to kill a third child in Addis Ababa. Amtenya was arrested on arrival at Hosea Kutako International Airport. However, following an urgent application in the Windhoek High Court by her lawyer Kadila Amomo questioning her arrest, the prosecution withdrew the case and she was let off scot-free. Still on crime, learners at Jan Moore Secondary School staged a demonstration in protest over a teacher who allegedly sodomized a pupil. In 2013, a football coach who doubled as a hostel supervisor at the school was accused of sodomizing a 17-year-old learner. The teacher, according to media reports, at the time was suspended but reinstated later. 7 years later, and education authorities are dealing with the same dilemma. This time around, the same teacher, now 53-year-old, is again being accused of allegedly sodomizing a 19-year-old learner. Police in the Kavango West region arrested a senior pastor of the Jesus Victory Church suspected to have caused the death of 3 people at the Mutengo village outside Nkurenkuru. The deceased, who are all family members, died after a concoction of methylated spirits, olive oil, white vinegar and salt was administered to them by the pastor through the rectum. The 25-year-old pastor Engelbert Hamtenya and his assistant 36-year-old Elia Ihemba remain in custody while the case was postponed to the 12th of January 2022. Former SWAPO Party Regional Councillor for Okahanja Steve Biko Boys checked into a prison cell following his arrest in connection with the rape of his biological daughter. It is alleged that the 42-year-old politician raped his 21-year-old daughter on the 17th and 18th of January while she was under the influence of alcohol. He is still in jail. On another matter of rape, Dennis Noah, an intern medical doctor at the Katutura State Hospital, was arrested on allegations of rape of a patient. It is alleged that Noah raped a male patient at the hospital's head injury ward. Upon investigation from medical staff, it was discovered that the male patient was sodomized and traces of semen were further found in the patient's rectum. Noah, 26, pleaded not guilty, was granted bail of $10,000. Investigating officer dealing with his case, Esther Kawiwa, testified that according to the laboratory results obtained, no semen was found. She informed the court that despite the results being negative for semen, it does not exonerate Noah. Prime Minister Sarah Kuhongerwa Amathila's name also came up following reports of farms Go-Up number 760 and Farm Duveb number 1149. It was complained that government gave preferential treatment when it bought two farms from a company owned by Prime Minister Sarah Kuhongerwa Amathila and her husband. The farms were bought from a previous owner who is classified as a previously advantaged Namibian at the value of $5.5 million and was transferred in 2012. Both farms were registered under a company called Seize the Moment Investment 56 Corporation, of which the Prime Minister and Onesmus Amathila each owns 50% shares. 8 years later, the couple offered Farm Duveb and half of Farm Go-Up to government, of which it made an offer of more than $14 million. The Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, Carl Schlettwein, explained that the amount was justified considering that farm prices have increased over the past 10 years. We move on to the Harambee Prosperity Plan. President Hage Geingob, during the State of the Nation address, said there would be a clear eligibility criteria to determine the qualifying beneficiaries of the food bank. The merging of the food bank, marginalized grants and the feeding scheme are part of the key interventions Geingob announced under the Harambee Prosperity Plan 2 to prevent food insecurity in households. The school feeding program, which currently provides one daily meal to more than 431,500 school-going children, would be extended to secondary schools and early childhood development centers as well. The second Harambee Prosperity Plan was launched, encompassing economic recovery over the medium term. President Geingob said the plan seeks to realign the country's focus to targeted interventions and accelerate development programs. Notable developments. Namibia retained its position as the top country with well-established road infrastructure on the African continent for the 5th consecutive year. According to the World Economic Forum's Global Competitive Report Index of 2020, Namibia remains unchallenged when it comes to exceptional quality roads in Africa. Namibia came out top, scoring 5.2 out of 7 ranking above South Africa and Rwanda, which scored 5 ranking in 2nd and 3rd places respectively. Globally, Namibia also ranked favorably at number 23 above economic giants such as China, India and Italy, which ranked at 42, 46 and 56 respectively. Namibia also reclaimed its number 1 ranking in press freedom across Africa, but dropped by 1 place in its global ranking from position 23 last year to 24. According to the index, press freedom is still firm in Namibia, as no journalists or media personality has either been jailed or killed. However, the index wants the legal framework to be strengthened through the enactment of the long-promised access to information legislation. Namibia, however, scored poorly on protecting whistleblowers. The Afrobarometer survey revealed that ordinary citizens risk retaliation or other negative consequences if they report corruption to the authorities. The country obtained 68%. Government did not dismiss the findings of the Perception Index, but is worried that Namibians think they could be pursued should they expose corruption or other criminal activities. 4 years ago, Namibia adopted the whistleblowers and witness protection laws for citizens to decisively engage in combating corruption. The two laws, however, hang in the balance as they are yet to be operationalized. President Hage Geingob officiated at the groundbreaking ceremony of the Hosea Kutako Memorial Museum and Homestead Shrine of two monuments at Tuases Village, the homestead of the late Chief Hosea Kutako. The decision to construct a museum and a shrine was taken during the Second Land Conference 2 years ago. Tuases Village is situated 195 kilometers east from Hobabes in the Aminos constituency. On oil exploration. The first 3 wells drilled by Recon Africa confirmed a working petroleum system in the Kavango Basin. A petroleum system covers a plan to develop oil and gas accumulations, which includes all the geologic elements and processes that are essential if oil and gas are to exist. The well sample log of the 6-2 provides over 200 meters of oil and natural gas indicators, shows over 3 discrete intervals in a stacked sequence of the reservoir and source rock. In related stories, purported discovery of a liquid substance resembling crude oil has caused excitement and sparked hope among the community of the Falkra settlement in the Klaras region. Community members say the dark liquid substance was discovered while a water borehole was drilled at Klein Falkras. According to them, the substance started spilling out when the borehole depth of about 140 meters was reached below the ground surface. The Ministry of Mines and Energy dispatched a team to investigate the alleged oil discovery, and we are not in possession of the report currently. The long debate on genocide and reparations also continued. A proposed joint declaration and quantum compensation by Germany for the 1904-1908 genocide committed by that country against the descendants of the Ovaherero, Ovambanderu and Nama communities was met with mixed feelings and mostly opposition by many Namibians, especially opposition political parties and quarters of the affected communities. One group of the descendants of the 1904-1908 genocide says lack of international laws to compel Germany leaves affected communities at the European country's mercy. The group comprises traditional authorities that have always supported the government envoys on the genocide negotiations. They say the offer is too little to make up for the bloodshed and the land dispossessed, but stressed that the talks are not only about money but also restoration of the dignity of the affected communities. Now on youth development, the Ministry of Sport, Youth and National Services launched the third National Youth Policy outlining strategies to enhance youth empowerment. The third National Youth Policy is aimed at strengthening government's capacity to engage the youth and improve understanding of youth ideas. Government believes having clear understanding of youth ideas makes it easy to formulate and coordinate holistic approaches on youth matters. More than 700 young people representing various disciplines are called for open and transparent dialogue on government programs and policies geared towards youth empowerment. The young people engaged President Hage Geingob and cabinet ministers on various issues ranging from the skyrocketing unemployment rate, funding for startup businesses, corruption, and the liquidation of Namibia. In July, chaos erupted in Parliament over the appointment of 3 commissioners for the ECN, as well as the Director General and Deputy Director General of ACC. President Geingob called a National Assembly session to consider and approve ECN's nominees Elsingi Kembwa, Yoram Rukambe, and Elmerentia Leonard, while ACC's are Paulus Noah and his deputy Erna van der Merwe. It was chaos as SWAPO Party Chief Whip Hamunyera Hambyuka gave notice demanding that no further discussion on the motion should continue. Opposition parties rejected this move, describing it as a ploy by the ruling party to bulldoze the passing of the motion. Nominations were eventually approved. Meanwhile, ECN wants to be an autonomous institution in line with the constitutional provision. The ECN commissioned experts from countries like Kenya and Ghana to conduct a comparative study of administrative independence from the state. The commissioners argue that the Commission's autonomy is provided for under Article 94B and supported by the Electoral Act. On finance and economics. The Financial Intelligence Center is in the process of introducing the unexplained wealth orders as an additional measure to prevent organized financial crimes. Its chairperson, Johannes Gavachab, said once operational, individuals who are brought before court are required to prove that their wealth was acquired through legal means. Between March 2020 and April 2021, the Financial Intelligence Watchdog issued 16 intervention orders involving 20 accounts worth $5 million on roads infrastructure. President Hage Geingob officially opened the 52 kilometers Namalubi-Isize-Luhonono District Road in the Zambezi region. The Namalubi-Isize-Luhonono District Road project is part of the government's program to expand and modernize road infrastructure and open up a new era of promise and possibilities for the people of the region. On governance, President Hage Geingob, during his address to the regional governors, reminded them of their roles in representing him and the central government in the regions. President Geingob did not mince his words when he reminded them to carry out the will of the appointing authority and government at large. Regionalism, the president warned, would not be promoted. This after incidences emerged regarding employment of Namibians in regions other than those of their origin, especially on government capital projects. Basilius Diakua is the country's new ombudsman on recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission. His appointment came into effect the 1st of October 2021. Diakua, a former regional councillor for the Mukwe constituency, brings in his experience from the Law Reform Commission, where he was the chief legal officer. Now on investment and access to information. The Minister of Industrialization and Trade, Lucia Ipumbu, tabled a bill in the National Assembly that will revamp and revive the country's investment legislation. The bill, called the Namibia Investment Promotion and Facilitation Act, seeks to enable a conducive environment to attract, retain, and facilitate both domestic and foreign sustainable investment in the country. The Namibia Investment Promotion and Facilitation Act, NIPA, was born out of the need to embrace a modern and clear legal framework that accommodates new economic dynamics and developments to ensure that Namibia is on par with new dimensions that emanates from the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The Minister of Information and Communication Technology, Dr. Peya Mushelenga, tabled a motion for a bill that would provide for the appointment of an independent and impartial information commissioner and a deputy to enforce the right of access to information. The bill, Mushelenga says, will provide an opportunity for internal review, appeal and judicial review of decisions, as well as provide an opportunity for information exempted from disclosure and incidental matters. Namibia has finally acquired her own barcode. Locally produced products can finally have their own identity in the global trading system following the launch of Namibia's first ever barcode system, the GS1 Namibia. The Minister of Industrialization, Lucia Ipumbu, launched the barcode in Windhoek. All along, Namibia relied on barcodes from other countries, mostly South Africa. This means that goods produced in Namibia are still identified as originating from South Africa. This will now be a thing of the past, as the country, in partnership with GS1 South Africa, has now acquired its unique code. Namibia's unique code ID is 631 and one barcode will cost $259. In other business news, the Ministry of Public Enterprises will be dissolved and transformed into a department under the Ministry of Finance. Minister Leon Jooste, in a media statement, said that the transformation will be completed in 3 to 4 months. The decision is part of recommendations by the high-level panel on the Namibian economy that was established by President Hage Geingob. The transfer of the functions of the public enterprises to the Ministry of Finance, Jooste says, will ensure that the latter has direct oversight into the financial and operational performance of the public enterprises. The ultimate idea, he said, is to establish a public enterprises holding company within the next 3 years, which, according to him, has proven to be effective in Singapore and Malaysia. The Presidential Task Force on Fourth Industrial Revolution presented its preliminary report to President Hage Geingob. Some of the key issues of concern for the Fourth Industrial Revolution is the absence of the National Digital Strategy, incomplete data, industry skills mismatch, and the aging ICT hardware in the public sector. The task force wants this to be looked into as the country prepares for the takeover of the Fourth Industrial Revolution through a number of preliminary recommendations. This includes establishing a National Data Center or National Artificial Intelligence Institute, complete National HR Strategic Plan with Fourth Industrial Revolution skills, and provide incentives for the prioritization of ICT. The Hyphen Consortium, trading as Hyphen Hydrogen Energy, has been selected as the preferred bidder to develop green hydrogen and ammonia around Namibia's Taukaib National Park worth $9 billion. Hyphen Consortium comprises Germany, South Africa, and European companies specializing in green hydrogen energy production and is also registered in Namibia. According to the winning proposal of the Hyphen Hydrogen Energy Company, the entire project is expected to contribute more than $7 billion to the gross domestic product over a 4-year period and to the Sovereign Wealth Fund. President Hage Geingob says government's green hydrogen energy and ammonia development ambitions have put the country in demand as the world transitions to clean energy usage. Dr. Geingob, flanked by cabinet ministers, provided details following his participation at the recently concluded Climate Change COP26 summit in Glasgow, Scotland, and UNESCO's high-level meeting and Paris Peace Forum in France. Half of Namibia Breweries Limited will soon belong to Heineken International South Africa. The Enclave and List Group will be selling its 50% share to Heineken International, saying the move is meant to unlock the group's unlimited potential. Heineken International will be the majority shareholder in NBL with 60%, while the rest of the shares will continue to be owned by locals and local institutions. MTC has launched its initial public offering with a minimum investment value of $1,700 worth of shares. The public bought MTC shares during the initial offering as the company prepares to list on the Namibia Stock Exchange. The public bought MTC shares during the initial offering. The price per share was $8.50 at a minimum of 200 shares. Government plans to engage neighboring countries to allow for the use of identity cards for travel purposes across the borders rather than passports. The new ID cards comes with improved security features such as the replacement of the fingerprint system by a quick response code, and the barcode will be replaced by a machine-readable zone. The quick response codes and the machine-readable zones have proven difficult to forge as countries such as Botswana, South Africa and Mauritius have adopted the same features for their identity documents. They will also be used in scanning machines similar to the ones used for e-passports. Current IDs will remain in use and will be phased out gradually. Back to politics. The year 2021 witnessed the executive director in the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Mbewutawa Njarakana, resign from SWAPO party in protest of government's handling of the genocide reparation negotiations. Namibian corporate personality Tim Ekanjo launched a non-profit social project called Never Walk Alone. The project delivered leather shoes to Namibian children who walk barefoot. The project Never Walk Alone ambitiously aims to provide between 3,000 and 6,000 pairs of shoes per annum to disadvantaged school-going children. Persons and entities also scooped awards. Bank of Namibia was awarded the Best Commemorative Banknote at the recently concluded High Security Printing Visual Awards in the regional category Europe, Middle East and Africa. Winning the award for the Best Commemorative Banknote is a significant achievement for the Bank of Namibia, as the note is the first ever commemorative banknote designed and issued by the bank. The $30 banknote was issued in celebration of Namibia's 30th independence anniversary and symbolizes the smooth transition of power between three presidents, as well as peace and stability. The African Union has named Namibia's history teacher, Stanley Lionga, one of the top 6 African teachers of 2020. Lionga is a teacher at the Simata Secondary School at Chinchimani in the Zambezi region. He was awarded about $160,000. Michelle McLean received a Top Humanitarian and Entrepreneur of the Year 2021 award by the International Association of Top Professionals in New York, USA. McLean, a former Miss Universe, was awarded for her work in raising funds to educate underprivileged children over the past 29 years, with the trust bearing her name. Founding President Sam Nujoma was awarded the Francisco de Miranda Order First Class by the Venezuelan government during a virtually held ceremony. Nujoma is among 5 other leaders, including Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah, former Mozambican President Joaquim Chissano, and late ANC President Oliver Tambo, to be honored with the Francisco de Miranda Order in its first class by the socialist state. On a positive note, although the rains destroyed about 50 hectares of vineyard and dates at the Nauta Dam irrigation project, the floodgates at the Nauta Dam were opened after the dam reached its maximum capacity at 100,7. Residents flocked in numbers to the dam to catch freshwater fish that was stuck in shallow water. For many, this was heaven sent. Rains in central Namibia replenished the dry Kwiseb River in the Namib Desert. The stream reached the settlement of Utuseb about 40 kilometers from Walvis Bay. Found in the world's oldest desert, the Kwiseb River serves commercial farmers, Topnar community in the Dorob and Naukluft parks and Walvis Bay. The only time the Kwiseb River drained into the sea was in 1934 and 1963, where floods damaged the port city of Walvis Bay. These are just but among many stories that made headlines this year. 2021 brought some quite challenging moments. Just as we transitioned from a troubled 2020, we still can't predict whether 2022 will be an improved version of 2021. Concepts such as lockdowns, mandatory masks, social distancing, vaccines as well as booster jabs will probably remain with us in 2022. But let's remain optimistic as we continue to take lessons not only on the ancient Greek numeric system, but also on how to survive the pandemic. As always, thank you all kindly so much for being with us throughout 2021. Continue paying your TV licenses as we remain committed to keep you informed, educated and entertained with new and exciting features expected in 2022. That is all we had for you. On behalf of all of us here at NBC, I'm Daniel Nadunya, wishing you all a happy and prosperous 2022. Adios, kaisehare, karenawa, mbazeni, musiale sinte, salasintle, sigomorfo tarurandura, kaleinawa, auf Wiedersehen, tot ziens, goodbye.